cool fun stuff. But I am an artist who's been doing digital art since 2019, 2018. I've been drawing since I was very, very young. Art genuinely since I was 8 years old, thanks to drawing with Jazza, I guess. Um, I mainly post on Tumblr, and I kind of wanted to start a YouTube channel, um, or streaming, especially. I'd love to stream. So yeah, I'll let that happen. Okay. I'm going to start mapping out the head. There we go. Okay, cool. So usually I'd start with a circle, but I'm just gonna go straight to you know, I'm not going to be drawing like eyes. I'll give her some beautiful lashes, so you know it's professional. Okay, so I need to pick out a hairstyle first. So before I actually draw the hair, I need to figure out where their hairline is, and also where their hair part is. So I want the part. I'm gonna make it just a little bit off center because that's usually how I like it. I don't like center parts that much. Um, so I think I'm gonna start by, like mapping out the shape of the hair. It's almost like a cloth. You do want it to be a 3D shape. There's gonna have to be some depth into it. Uh, so there's like back hair, front hair, bangs, which I will do later. But I want the back hair to be kind of there. This is the side, like, bangs, if you know what I mean. The side bangs, I guess. And then the back hair. So I don't know if I want to give her a cow's lick. I might just do a similar hairstyle to my character. I'm gonna give them side-ish, side-ish bangs, but the bangs are obviously at the front, so they're gonna be the like front most. You want to make sure that they do connect to like where your bangs are usually connected is the front of your hairline. So the front bangs are connected to this part of your head. They're not connected to the middle of your head. Your hair does it goes back. On the side parts of your hair, they don't connect directly to the top of your head either. Like, your hair is all different places. It's not just straight down. So the underlayers will be, say that one would be there, and that one would be there, like that. So that part of the head, it would be probably connected to. Um, and then the back of your hair is, connected to the back of your head. Of course, the top layers are usually the longest layers, if there's like loads of layers on it, that kind of like taper in, like that. If your hair kind of tapers down, and that's the layers, which is usually on male hairstyles, or ones that have been done at barbers, like pixie cuts, which I hate drawing, so I don't draw them often. But you want to map out where the hair is. Sometimes I like to think of it as kind of like a cloth, kind of like a 3D shape. That's usually how I think of my, like, I want the face to be 3D. I want everything to look 3D, like I just modeled it. So I'm going to turn down the opacity of that and start mapping out the smaller shapes, which, I mean, it's pretty simple if you actually map out a bit more than this at least. I feel like I mapped out pretty minimally. So if you kind of just, you can go with the flow if you want to. You can go with an actual hair flow if you want to like choose the directions the hair go. If you want your hair to look natural, I guess would be the right word, you do want to have every shape. Like your hair, I'm so bad. I'm gonna have to cut out so much of this. Your hair does go into clumps, it's not individual strands. I feel like that's said a lot in tutorials or things like that, but it is not individual strands. It is. I keep holding my breath, it's not very fun. It is clumps. Except there are individual strands, but those are usually flyaways or like they come from the clump. Like they break off from it. So if you can tell what I'm doing, I'm connecting most of these to one of the pieces of hair that I have drawn already. That's just what I tend to do. That's how I prefer to do it. That's how I will be doing it for the nth time. I'm going to erase the top of the head here. Oh, also, I feel like a lot of Clip Studio users don't know this. I only learned this recently being a few months ago. But if you like your brush, this is so off topic, but I feel like more people should know this. If you like your brush and you want to erase, or you want to erase on the click this under here, and it will erase with your brush, with the brush you're using. So I never use the eraser tool anymore unless I'm getting like fine erasing. You can probably hear my pen, all the undos and stuff. So as you can see, I'm kind of separating, but staying in the clumps that I've already mapped out. I'm separating each hair to look more like it's being formed out of smaller items, if you know what I mean. Items is not the right word, but I can't think of it right now. Really, your hair is just a bunch of little objects that have kind of formed together and stuck together. I still want to keep the hair part visible for myself, especially for the rendering, which I will do. I don't know if I'm going to cut it out. I might bring this piece around and connect it there. You know, for the fun of it. It gives a bit of volume, quite a bit of volume actually. Also, I'd recommend using references if you want to draw really detailed hair or something like that. Like get up Pinterest. I know everyone says that, just get Pinterest. This is some very straight hair. I got into a habit of only drawing curly hair, which I think a lot of people don't do that. But I did. I got into a habit of it, and I found it hard to get out of the habit. So I recommend changing your hair textures every so often. I think it's because most of the tutorials I've seen on Pinterest had said only draw curly hair, which is usually more made up of those kind of shapes. But I usually use these kind of shapes for straight hair which I didn't figure it out. I didn't realize, oh, I'm only drawing curly hair. It's kind of like same face syndrome, but same hair syndrome, I guess. Okay, this is very rock star looking so far. I kind of like that though, so that's good for me. I'm going to erase that part now. I'm going to start coloring because that's, my favorite part of drawing hair. I think it's the best part. My last test was with pink. I wasn't too big of a fan of it, so I decided not to. So I want to start by, and I have once I have the layer, like the color blocked in, I merge my layers. I don't know if I blocked that in fully. I didn't. I had a feeling I didn't. I missed that part. It's hard for me to fully get everything. I just want to add this on. If generally, this depends on the lighting in the scene, which can be like, if it's red, generally the shading could go to reddish or purplish almost. Lighting usually does go to yellow, but if, say, there's blue light around, say, instead of the sun, it's a blue LED light or something, the lighting on the face will be blue. So the lighting will go towards blue, or like, especially like this kind of blue can be great for lighting. That's just my personal preference. I don't recommend using the multiply layer to start with. Multiply layer with purple, it doesn't help. It really doesn't. Generally, I like selecting my own colors. It can help to see in grayscale the color wheel, because then you'll be able to tell which one is darkest, which is the best for deep, nice, vibrant shading, because you do want your shading to be vibrant. Generally, unless you have a very desaturated color palette, but you still want to have hue shifts in your colors. You don't want to keep it one, unless you're using monochrome, which I am not too experienced in, personally. But you say, if I'm going to draw this, I'll just give an example for a single hair strand, which, you don't want to draw every single hair strand, but it can be helpful. I'm going to go towards the darker blue. Not that much. Not, but like, see, I shade that in the darker blue. Still close enough. That's a midpoint. Usually that would be for me. But say if instead I did it by just bringing that down, and someone could like this more. If you like this more, go ahead. I'm not going to judge you. You could also just do a slightly less intense hue shift. Still a hue shift. I just really like hue shifts. I really like lighting color theory. I think it's very fun. But I'll start with the, shading now, actually. So, generally I want to start with I just want to go and pick a more dense brush here, because I like shading with denser brushes. It's almost like oil paint instead of watercolor. But I'm going to start with, coloring the midpoint shadows with my very, very laggy computer. I might have to close like Chrome or something. I don't know if voice recorder Windows has a time limit, but I don't feel like finding a free voice recorder because I'm scared to download anything. I was scared to download OBS, which might be surprising. So this shading, I think I did too much there, would probably be from the front view. Another thing people forget is that shadows on hair do have direction. I think people tend to just put that there no matter the direction of the shadow. But I don't think that's really how hair works. Generally, you will have a shadow like around here or like a highlight around here somehow. Because, hair is a lot of different colors. My arm just cracked really loudly. I might get up a picture of someone with a blue bob to show you. You can see the band there. It does not stay in one place. It doesn't just rotate around the head. It goes down. Obviously, you can also see hue shift here very well. You can see it gets darker and then it gets more yellow here. Even here, gets darker, gets more yellow. You can see the separation of colors and shadows in every strip of hair. I think that illustrates my point very well. Not literally, because it's not an illustration. I'm not sure if this is probably mostly light. You can also see there's some light up here, because the light is, I'd say that's reflecting from the white here, because it's very pure white. Or probably light reflecting off it, I suspect, but that would probably mostly be going to the back of her head. But you can see there's light in other places then. Like that's the darkest shading point, that's the darkest shadow. The darkest shadow's there. But you can see that hair light isn't just on the sides or like the shadow. It's almost like using those very simplified faces as a reference, which are also helpful if you need to learn how to draw faces. But I'm going for a front highlight, kind of like that, where it's the light's coming from the front up here. I'm going directly into that. That I'm not good at showing light. I could probably do it here, like this, how people usually do it. Just say this is in front, like directly in front of the head. It's going in there. Talking too much makes me feel sick. I don't know why. But anyway, generally, there will be light coming through the back of your head. Not like your head, your hair. If you have light behind you, but if it's mainly dark behind you, I'd say it would mostly be dark at the back of your hair there, because it does have spaces and gaps in between. You will see light peeking through, ever so slightly. I'm probably going to fast forward most of this because it is going to take me a while, especially with talking like this so much, so I will be quiet like this. And also something I do is I do mix my colors a lot, as in just, color picking from the opacity that is lowest, I guess, so it makes it almost like real paint. I use the little tool for making your paint or your brushes mix a bit better in Clip Studio. I'm not sure if it does much, but I'm trying to get as closely to mixing well as I can. I'm also going directly in front as if it's like a torch, if you know what I mean. Or if you shun, I don't think that's the right word. Shined, I don't know the word for it. A torch directly at someone's head, or like a light, a big light, probably a diffused light. Because I don't think generally torches are this sporadic. That's not the right word either. I'm really out of words today. Generally, I'm pretty good with them. You can see I'm going in with lighter, darker colors now. I'm getting my darkest shadows. I want generally to be harsh, pretty harsh at least. I also do take this as an opportunity to almost do line art. That isn't shadow around the edges because generally you're not going to have that much. Well, you will, but not too much. Um, I might pull up that reference again if I can show what I mean. You do get shadows, and I probably will illustrate this because it helps a lot. You do get shadows that is underneath the bangs, beside the bangs. This very the lighting seems to be coming from here. Generally, that's why it's getting darker over here, even ever so slightly, because there is also light over here. Obviously, it seems to be taken in the day. But there's shadows. That shadow is from the hair. I think that's also a cast shadow. Yeah. Outline the light here because it actually makes it a bit easier to see. I'm not showing face today. Not obviously, I'm not talking about my face, but showing how to draw face. But shading in general is very important for hair. I think I picked the exact color of one part of her hair. Um, Shading is very important for rendering. Rendering hair, especially, is because it's such a odd surface. It's not one piece. You can treat it as one piece. It helps to treat everything as one little piece. Especially in this hair, it looks like loads of little pieces. You can see it in other images as well, that it can look a lot denser, a lot thicker, especially with like thicker hair types, like dense hair types, like very curly hair. It looks like one shape sometimes, but that actually can make it harder to draw. I think I'm going to keep this here in case I need to illustrate something again. I might illustrate something, I mean, illustrate how shadows work. That is the cast shadow. I feel like that should go back a little bit and be a bit more there. But that's the cast shadow coming directly down from this hair, this strand of hair, which more light there, a bit more light there. You do want separation though. You don't want everything to look like one piece. You don't want to add as much detail in the highlights if you're adding more detail in the shadows. Remember, I saw this on Pinterest a while ago, and it helped me a lot. Generally, your shadows or your highlights, depending the lightest piece, just being like thick and kind of, sparse. You can obviously put a lot of detail into everything. That is a very valid art style and also a very cool one. But generally, you do want to look as similar to a photo as you can, if you know what I mean. I also feel like I didn't make this dark enough. I want this to be the darkest because it is the backmost piece. Also, a lot of people do make things fade in with white or make them look lighter with white, and I'm aware of how to do that. I just don't think it works that well for hair. So I want everything to look as if it's I think that does look like it was this. The lightest one is leaning closest towards green. The darkest one is leaning closest towards purples, but usually I'll use purple for shadow if I'm drawing in red. That's just me. I think it looks better that way. I didn't use that for my character though, because I just, it was just personal preference, I guess. It depends on the illustration as well. So the midpoint is about perfectly in the middle of the blue and green, almost. than the highlight point, the highest point. Generally, I do like going a bit further and really pushing the colors, like going ahead, and sometimes even adding yellow to things like this, even if it's blue, and definitely not yellow. This is green, but it works because it looks like the highlight from the same image. You can also add a little bit of a darker highlight to kind of carry it through. You can do the little anime, like, I feel like anime isn't the right word, but I think it works for a lot of art styles. The band, because obviously that is a thing. Like, you do have bands of light in hair. Just generally not one thick one. Sometimes, yeah. Usually that's with very straight, very like perfect hair. But yeah, you can. I think I've explained most of my shading well enough already. You can add more shadow. I'm just gonna keep on adding detail here until I'm completely happy with it. I think I'm basically completely happy with it. Also, one thing I do recommend is for separate everything if you can. Like, not everything, but like separate all of the thick strands you've done at least. I see a lot of people do this. I'm not 100% the best on it. I think it's giving them a lot of volume. It almost looks like skin hair now. Just something I like drawing a lot, so it makes sense that I naturally lean towards it, I guess. But see, it almost looks like their hair's coming up instead of being flat. You know what I mean? It almost looks like it's purposely being styled up. Don't add that much volume if you don't want to. Your hair doesn't need volume because hair can be flat. I'm going to use this reference again because I think it's a very good reference. Their hair's flat, and you can see it doesn't have all these pieces at the top that really separate. But anyway, you can see the hair's flat. It kind of flows directly down. It's being weighed down, obviously. I guess it's not. I would recommend adding a little bit of line art in after, usually after I do. I also like adding, if I'm doing painterly art, I like adding line art where the darkest parts are. Make it thicker where the darkest parts are. I would do something on line art, but I'd say there are people who've done it much better. Because I don't generally do that much line art. I just kind of like jumping straight into painting. Anyway, actually almost goes directly from the scalp because they probably used their top hair for their bangs. Some hair's thicker, some hair's straighter and thicker, and it's easier to do that with your hair. Like some of the topmost bangs, okay, I think I forgot to mention this, but the topmost bangs, I did mention layers, but the topmost bangs are sometimes from, I'd say a lot of the time, from the top of your head. The topmost bangs would be. The shorter bangs, as they get shorter, they do go down. That's how layers work, I guess. In hair, at least. I'm not a hairdresser. Just want to add that on. I don't think I will be a hairdresser anytime soon. But the topmost does have a big difference between the bottommost. So I'm just adding shadows where I believe the hair would cast shadows. This is straight on, so it wouldn't cast as much as, say, if it was directly, if the lighting was directly up here, like say, here's the light, like almost like a halo, it would probably cast a bigger shadow, like that, almost. I think this might even be a bit too big here, especially. That could be a bit too big. But also, if we're talking torches, yeah, it's probably gonna only be. That's it. That's how I draw hair. I have Tumblr, I guess, if you want to see that. I'll probably link it somewhere. That's how I shade hair. That's how I draw hair. Bye? I don't know.